Welcome back to the Bob Davis Podcast YouTube channel. I am here in the front end, the cockpit, so to speak, of the mobile podcast command unit where I do all my driving. And I'm going to come up here and sit down a little bit. This is a real tight space, but I thought it'd be cool to do a podcast from here rather than anywhere else at the end of a 15-state, 60-plus day, 6,000-mile mega trip, which has taken me from Quartzsite, Arizona, all the way on the southwestern end of Arizona, down across the border through Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and then along the Gulf Coast with starting at Corpus Christi, all the way up to Galveston Island. Let's see, where else did we go? Louisiana for a brief moment. Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, down the tip of Florida and up to the coastal areas of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, turning into Virginia just about when you get to Kitty Hawk, Kill Devil Hills. I blew that part of the trip off, which I'll explain in a second. And then on up into Virginia, across Virginia, down to Bristol, Virginia. If you saw the videotape that I did, the video about the home of country music, the birthplace of country music, then you're familiar with that part of the trip. On into Tennessee to see friends, on over into Kentucky, and up through central Illinois to the Chicago area, around Chicago, through Joliet, up through Sycamore, Illinois, on 23, on up into Neenah, Wisconsin. And I am now in a Walmart at Neenah. Neenah is a pretty cool place. I'll talk about that, and I do talk about that in the podcast. So I did two podcasts that detail the routes, the experience, and a lot of observations from all of those states. 15 states, I believe, in all. And it has been incredible. I'm exhausted. I've been on the road for 60 plus days. Yes, I've had a few days of rest here and there, most of it in this vehicle, although in a couple places I stayed in a bed, but most of the time I stay with the truck. And it's really been an incredible experience, an incredible trip. And so this completes really 3/4 of the United States. If I decide to go back out west, Seattle way, on down from Oregon into California to get to Arizona in the fall, then it will be a complete circuit, really, of the almost the entire United States. Because last summer, I came up through the West and Midwest and then went across to New Hampshire and Maine, and then back down and across to Arizona through Colorado, of course, and those kinds of places. So it's really been a complete circuit of the country. So when people do videos on YouTube about the places that they've gone, they usually do travelogues. Where did I get the best hamburger? I went to a taffy pull in this state. We had an incredible Mexican dinner at this Mexican restaurant, blah, 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 blah. Here's what it's like to eat at a Cracker Barrel, all of those things. And I have certainly eaten at a Cracker Barrel. In fact, I now have a table that I sit at every Cracker Barrel. So it feels like I'm going to the same Cracker Barrel every time. But anyway, that's what you usually see when it comes to nomad content and RV life content on YouTube. But the reality is that that doesn't float my boat. What I enjoy doing is content that is primarily my observations and my experiences. And I'm not going to do that in this video because it takes too long and it'd be completely off the top of my head. I actually have to make notes, and then I have to take this map. Let me show you. I have to get up. Take these maps like this, and maps like this one. And this is my new one. It's already getting dog-eared. But this is my new map. And I also have a bunch of benchmark maps when I'm out west. you have to take the maps and you navigate with maps. And I, again, cannot tell you how many times people have come up to me and said, I'll be carrying, a couple of maps like this under my arm, when I go into a restaurant. People will go, do you use a map? And I'm like, yeah, I use maps every day. People are amazed because the standard way of road tripping these days is you enter your destination on there's a whole bunch of stuff around here. I've got a heater and I got some other stuff, so it sounds a little crazy. But anyway, you enter, where you're going onto your GPS. The GPS takes you onto the interstate, and then, you kind of go to sleep for 14 hours. Obviously, you're driving, but the experience consists of stopping at truck stops or way places and getting snacks and driving for 14 hours until you can't see straight, and then you stop at a motel and you stay at a motel, and then you go on to the next thing. It's not like that for low and slow travel, where the average speed is 45 miles an hour and you're on back roads. So this was 6,000 miles on back roads through the country. And what happens is you actually see the country, you see towns, you see people, you can experience the differences in regions and experience the differences in the way certain towns operate and the people. And after a while, you develop these observational powers in a way where you can really kind of tell what's going on. Now, nothing is as good as actually knowing what's going on. And I'll give you an example in a second. But you have a sixth sense about what to look for, or if there's something different in a particular town. And for me, I get to see the people in this country doing what they do. And as I said on Instagram, I did a post on Instagram about this trip, and I said, we don't really celebrate America anymore. We don't celebrate this great expanse of continent that we live in. Obviously, that includes Canada and northern Mexico, but I'm talking about the United States specifically. We don't celebrate this great expanse of land, this amalgamation of states that we live in, and we certainly don't really celebrate the people, the hard work that people do in their towns and their villages and their cities. But it's there, and you can see it and you can feel it if you travel the back roads. So these two podcasts, which I will post links in the description box, part 1 and part 2, and entail the 6,000 miles of back roads trip in America in the spring of 2024 with a lot of observations. Overdevelopment in Florida, for example, where I have encountered what I like to refer to as these small, dusty beach towns, which are not real, highly developed places. Maybe they got some Airbnbs, but I'll give you an example. I like Galveston, and Galveston Island in particular in Texas. Yeah, there's a lot of Airbnbs the closer you get to Galveston, and they're all on stilts. But further out on the island, it's not like that. So there's other places, and then the difference between knowing and feeling is I went through Cairo, Illinois, and it's a ghost town, and it is like Cuba. It looks like Cuba. It's just decaying in front of our eyes. And when I got up to Chicago to see my friends Steve and Darlene doesn't like Governor Pritzker. I don't think many people in Illinois like Governor Pritzker, to tell you the truth. But anyway, I said, what happened to Cairo? And she said, oh, well, Pritzker outlawed fracking. Unbeknownst to me, fracking is bringing back parts of Indiana and Pennsylvania, and they were going to do fracking down in Cairo, but the governor got with the legislature, and they passed a law preventing fracking in the state of Illinois. You do see the oil wells that are brand new in Illinois and Kentucky and places like that where you don't expect to see them. You see them all over Texas. You don't expect to see them in Kentucky and southern Illinois. But here's what happened at Cairo. Now, I was told it was because they outlawed fracking, but what happened at Cairo was there was a big, serious flood there a few years ago, and it really destroyed the town, and they've never come back. But I think Darlene's point was, just imagine if they had allowed fracking there, what that would have done for jobs in that town. various spots. A town, you'll go one place and a town will be falling apart. The next town is prosperous. It's very interesting to me why one is prospering and one isn't prospering. You come up here to Wisconsin out of Illinois, a lot of towns in Illinois, even the towns in northern Illinois, which are agricultural, or the towns in southern Illinois, which have a lot of prosperity due to agriculture. Wisconsin, particularly Fond du Lac, Oshkosh, Green Bay, Neenah, and some of these other towns are very prosperous, and they are doing very well. So for me, that's what I get out of doing these road trips on back roads. And you develop these reference points. Now, in 5 years or 2 years, I might go through Cairo and go, wow, something's changed. Wonder what it is. And once you travel a lot and you have these reference points, it's kind of neat because you kind of have a sense of what's going on in different spots. And it's all experienced up here in the front of the vehicle. So here's what I'll do. I'm going to post the links to those podcasts in the description box right below. I'll write a little bit about some of the observations and the process of what I went through. I tell a great story about getting kicked out of a Florida state park. I talk about, if you're a nomad, I do talk about the issues with but these are very raw videos, not a lot of production here. I talk a lot about the problems that we have finding places, especially in a state like Florida in season, that are the kinds of states that allow now the refrigerator's going off, so that's the vibrate. This thing is sitting on the refrigerator, so my apologies. That allow people to stay in parking lots at the Cracker Barrel or Walmart. Not all Walmarts allow people to stay overnight, and not all Cracker Barrels do either. And the reason for that is local municipalities have been passing laws against that. It has nothing to do with the company, Cracker Barrel or Walmart or wherever you stay. So anyway, the refrigerator running is kind of my cue to go ahead and head into the Walmart and buy some stuff that I got to buy, and then get ready to get on to the next leg of this 6,000-mile mega trip through 15 states in the spring of 2024 in America, particularly rural America, which I love. A lot of times when you're driving, you're the only vehicle on the road. There's just nobody around you. So I'm a big proponent of back roads. I hope people don't do it because it is amazing how few people use the back roads. Certainly when you get around big cities, yeah, you get traffic. But the other thing about the back roads is if you're careful, you can completely avoid the big cities. And that's what navigating using these maps is all about. This one is the National Geographic map. It's not so great. There's other kinds, benchmarks, as well as, I don't even know what this is. Delorme. This is a Delorme map. It's an old one that I got from my friend Steve on the farm. It's been up there for God knows how many years. But this is up in Wisconsin. You can kind of see, the detail that's available if you use the right maps. Some people would say, hey, this is kind of, stupid. I'll just use GPS. But you will not have the experience. You won't be able to see the cool small towns, and you won't have the experience in navigating. Why not give it a try? Thanks for viewing. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, liking, and commenting on the Bob Davis Podcast's YouTube channel, as well as subscribing to the Bob Davis Podcast at iTunes, off the page at thebobdavispodcast.com. I'm on Audible. I am on iTunes. I am on Google Podcasts while they last. I don't know what they're going to do. I guess they're going to migrate everything to YouTube. And any place else that you get your podcast. Thanks for listening to the Bob Davis Podcasts, and thanks for watching the channel. It's raw, and it's designed to get you to check out the podcasts. We're not going to go on forever. We're at almost 15 minutes. I think that's enough. I'm going into the Walmart. Bye-bye.